86 million cars sold across every continent every single year. Ford, Volkswagen, Chevrolet, Honda, Toyota. Names on every road from Sao Paulo to Warsaw to Lagos to Detroit. Most buyers choose by advertisement, by monthly payment, by the color of the trim. Mechanics choose by what comes through the lift, what they watch fail before 100,000 miles, what they watch run past 300,000, and what they put their own families inside. The answer has been the same for decades. Here is the data. There's a number that the automotive industry does not advertise. It is $441. That is what the average Toyota owner pays per year in unscheduled repairs. Not routine oil changes, not tire rotations, but the things that break without warning. The industry average for all brands is $652. That $211 gap per year, compounded over 10 years of ownership, is more than $2,100 that Ford owners and Volkswagen owners and Chevrolet owners pay that Toyota owners do not. That is not marketing. That is RepairPal's data drawn from hundreds of thousands of real repair orders across 345 Toyota models. And it barely tells the full story. The probability that a Toyota repair is severe, meaning it costs 3 times the annual average repair cost, meaning it is the kind of bill that destabilizes a household budget, is 12%. 12%. The industry average severity rate is higher. The visit frequency for Toyota is 0.3 unscheduled shop visits per year. The industry average is 0.4. That single decimal point is the difference between a car that asks something of you once every 3 years and a car that asks something of you closer to once every 2.5 years. Multiply that across a family in Brazil, across a decade in Poland, across the cost of every diagnostic fee and every missed workday and every rental car while the vehicle sits on a lift. The mechanic sees that math played out in real time, in real people's faces, at the service counter, which is why the mechanic does not drive the car that generates the most shop visits. The mechanic drives the one that does not come back. Ford issued 57 separate recalls affecting 6 million vehicles in the United States in 2023 alone. 6 million. That is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's own documented count, and it gave Ford the distinction of being the most recalled brand in America that year. The problems were not cosmetic. A 2.5-liter hybrid engine in the Escape and the Maverick could release oil vapor into the engine compartment. The recall language told owners to park and shut off the engine immediately if they smelled smoke or saw it. A rear axle hub bolt on the F-150 could fatigue and fracture, meaning the vehicle could roll away from park without the driver present. Transmissions in the F-150, Mustang Explorer, and Bronco were recalled in 2023 because a loose bolt could prevent the park gear from engaging even when the shifter showed P. That is not a software update. That is a vehicle that will roll into traffic if the driver trusts the gear indicator. By 2025, Ford had issued 153 separate recalls in a single calendar year, a record that eclipsed every other automaker on the planet by a margin that no competitor came within range of matching. 153 recalls in 1 year. The brand spent the year notifying owners, scheduling dealer visits, and replacing components that should not have shipped. Ford's average annual repair cost runs $775. Toyota's is $441. The gap between what a Ford owner pays and what a Toyota owner pays over 5 years of ownership is not a rounding error. It is $1,670 that left a bank account in Germany or Chile or Canada and went into a parts department because a design decision did not hold through normal use. Volkswagen's trajectory is its own documented record. In the 2025 J.D. Power Vehicle Dependability Study, the most comprehensive automotive reliability survey conducted, drawing on data from more than 300,000 vehicles across the 2000 through 2024 model years, Volkswagen finished last, not second to last, last among 22 brands evaluated. In the same study that placed Toyota third overall with a score of 162 problems per 100 vehicles, Volkswagen could not reach the industry average of 202. The brand that built the Golf and the Passat and distributed them across 140 countries, the brand that generated $348.6 billion in revenue in 2024, the largest automotive revenue figure on earth, finished below Chrysler, below Jeep, below every mass market name on that list. Revenue and reliability are not the same variable. Volkswagen proved that with a single ranking. Now here is the specific thing that mechanics know that the advertising does not say. Toyota's engineering philosophy is not a slogan. It was codified in a document in 2001 called the Toyota Way. And the principle at its center is this: any employee on any Toyota assembly line anywhere in the world has the authority to stop production the moment they detect a quality defect. Not report it. Not flag it for supervisor review. Stop the line. The Japanese word is jidoka. Loosely translated, it means automation with a human touch, which means the human is always allowed to override the machine when something is wrong. The consequence is that a defect identified at Station 14 does not become a defect installed in 10,000 cars by Station 40. It becomes a stopped line, a fixed process, and 0 defective units shipped. The production stop costs Toyota time and money in that moment. It costs the owner nothing over the life of the vehicle. When a Ford assembly worker identifies a component that is out of tolerance, the documented outcome, confirmed across multiple NHTSA recall investigations, is that in several cases, the component shipped anyway, the vehicle sold, the failures accumulated over months and years of real-world driving, and eventually millions of owners received a recall letter explaining that the part their car was built with should not have been installed. The F-150 axle bolt that could fracture and cause a rollaway did not fail on the assembly line. It left the assembly line. It drove off dealership lots. It carried families in the back seat for months before the failure pattern reached the NHTSA's threshold for a recall. Toyota's Jidoka principle exists specifically to prevent the gap between installation and failure from ever opening. It is not a retrospective fix. It is a mechanism that eliminates the condition under which the failure becomes possible. Toyota does not congratulate itself on this difference. The philosophy is simply that a defect that reaches the customer is not a defect that was managed. It is a defect that was abandoned. The financial outcome of that philosophy is the $441 annual repair bill versus $652. The Corolla has been in continuous production since 1966. It crossed 50 million units sold in 2021. The best-selling passenger car in the history of the automobile, on any continent, by any manufacturer. More than the Volkswagen Beetle's 21 million. More than the Ford Model T's 16.5 million. 50 million families in 150 countries looked at every available option and returned to this car across generation after generation. The Corolla is not the most expensive car Toyota makes. It is not the most powerful. It is the most consistently purchased because it consistently does not fail the people who depend on it. That is the only mechanism by which you reach 50 million. Word of mouth across decades is a more durable sales engine than any advertising budget. If you value documented evidence over manufacturer promises, subscribe now and drop your country in the comments. This script draws on data from RepairPal, J.D. Power's 2025 Vehicle Dependability Study, and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's official recall database. Now back to the evidence. The Prius hybrid system launched in 1997. At the time, hybrid drivetrains were considered experimental. The engineering consensus held that managing 2 power systems simultaneously would produce a maintenance disaster at high mileage. Toyota's hybrid Synergy drive operates on regenerative braking. The electric motor recharges the battery during deceleration, which means the friction brakes work less, which means the physical brake pads last approximately twice as long compared to a conventional vehicle of equivalent weight. The owner of a Toyota Prius does not replace brake pads on the same schedule as the owner of a Ford Escape. The mechanic who services the Prius does not see that recurring revenue. The service department that depended on brake jobs as a predictable quarterly transaction found that transaction disappearing from Prius customer files. Toyota absorbed the manufacturing cost of a more complex drivetrain. The brake shop absorbed the revenue loss. The owner kept the money. A second-generation Prius owned by a taxi driver in Austria reached 621,000 miles on the original battery pack before reaching documented public attention. That is not a controlled test. That is a professional driver who put the car into daily commercial service and kept records because the car never gave him a reason to stop. Toyota's hybrid Synergy drive has now been in production for more than 25 years across multiple vehicle platforms on 6 continents. The maintenance catastrophe predicted in 1997 has not arrived. In 2024, a Toyota Corolla hybrid purchased new in 2019 reached 481,805 miles in 5 years. Michael Lewis Rhodes posted the odometer reading on video in December of that year. He averaged 264 miles of driving every single day for 5 calendar years, delivering products as an independent contractor. The original hybrid drivetrain did not require replacement. The federal fuel economy estimate for that vehicle is 52 combined miles per gallon. At that rate, Rhodes burned through approximately 9,265 gallons of fuel. A conventional vehicle averaging the United States fleet average of 25 miles per gallon would have consumed nearly 19,000 gallons to cover the same distance. Rhodes' Corolla hybrid saved the equivalent of nearly 10,000 gallons over 5 years. That is not a fuel economy talking point. It is a documented ownership record combining longevity and efficiency at a level that no European or American mass-market brand has publicly produced at comparable mileage. Victor Shepard drove a Toyota Tundra pickup truck to 1 million miles on the original engine and original transmission. He averaged 125,000 miles per year over 9 years, running commercial routes from Louisiana to Virginia, North Dakota, and Wyoming. The truck was serviced 117 times. Oil changes, fluid replacements, tires, routine maintenance. The engine did not fail. The transmission did not fail. When Shepard reached 1 million miles, Toyota took delivery of the original truck and gave him a new 2016 Tundra. The engine from the million-mile truck was sent to a museum. The mechanic who serviced that Tundra for 9 years did not replace major drivetrain components because major drivetrain components do not fail if you build them correctly the first time. That is the Jidoka principle, expressed in metal over time at 1 million miles. In the 2024 J.D. Power Vehicle Dependability Study, measured at 3 years of ownership, the period when vehicles begin to reveal the quality decisions made at the factory, Toyota led every mass market brand in America with 147 problems per 100 vehicles. The industry average was 190. The gap between Toyota and the average is 43 fewer problems per 100 vehicles. Scaled to Toyota's 10.8 million vehicles sold globally in 2024, 43 fewer problems per 100 vehicles represents hundreds of thousands of failures that did not happen, hundreds of thousands of shop visits that were never scheduled, hundreds of thousands of repair bills that were never written. The money stayed in the accounts of Toyota owners in Sao Paulo and Warsaw and Berlin and every other city where someone signed a purchase contract and expected the car to work. Toyota has held the title of world's largest automaker by units sold for 5 consecutive years. In 2024, with 10.8 million vehicles sold globally, it outsold the second-place Volkswagen Group by nearly 2 million units. Volkswagen generated more revenue per vehicle. Toyota sold more vehicles. The brand that finishes last in dependability extracts more money per transaction. The brand that leads in dependability wins on volume. Owners in 170 countries made that calculation without being asked to explain it. There is a reason the global automotive market generates $300 billion in annual maintenance and repair spending every year. That spending is not distributed evenly across brands. It follows documented patterns confirmed by independent data across millions of vehicles over decades of ownership records. RepairPal's database of 345 Toyota models returns the same conclusion that J.D. Power's 300,000 vehicle survey returns, which is the same conclusion the NHTSA recall database returns when you sort by manufacturer and count. Toyota owners pay less. Toyota vehicles fail less often. When they do fail, the failures are less catastrophic. The mechanic, who sees this every day in the form of real vehicles on real lifts and real repair orders, does not wait for the annual survey to know which brand to drive. The mechanic has been watching the same pattern since the 1980s. The Toyota production system, the Jidoka line stop authority, the Kaizen philosophy of daily incremental improvement at every workstation in every factory on every continent where Toyota builds cars. These are not branding concepts. They are the operational source of the $441 annual repair bill. They are the mechanism behind the 50 million Corollas. They are the reason a 2019 Corolla Hybrid absorbed 481,000 miles without a drivetrain replacement. The philosophy produces the outcome. The outcome produces the number. The number is what the mechanic already knows before the question is asked. In 2023, Toyota was the only automaker in the world to hold more than 10% of the global automotive market. One brand, 10.7%. Every other manufacturer, Volkswagen, General Motors, Ford, Stellantis, Hyundai, operated below 10%. One company, selling into every climate and every road condition and every economy from North America to sub-Saharan Africa, captured more than 1 in every 10 vehicles sold on Earth. That market share was not built by advertising budget. It was built by the accumulated purchase decision of tens of millions of people across generations who compared their options, who talked to people who owned one before, who, in many cases, owned one themselves and simply bought another. The mechanic is one of those people. The mechanic just knows with precision why. The Corolla sold its 50 millionth unit in 2021. Every 15 seconds, somewhere on Earth, another one is purchased. At that rate, the Corolla has been purchased more than 4 million times since this script was written. The person who buys the next one is not buying an advertisement. They are buying the documented outcome of a manufacturing system that stops the line when something is wrong. They are buying $441 a year. They are buying the decision the mechanic already made. The timing chain is a detail most car buyers never ask about. It is the mechanism that synchronizes the engine's camshaft and crankshaft, the core timing relationship that keeps the valves and pistons from colliding. Timing belts do the same job, but they are made of rubber reinforced with fiber. They degrade under heat and oil exposure, and they must be replaced on a schedule. The replacement cost for a timing belt service runs between $400 and $900 depending on the engine and the labor market. And if the owner misses the interval, the belt snaps, the valves meet the pistons, and the engine is destroyed. Toyota specified timing chains across the bulk of its modern engine lineup because chains are metal, they do not degrade on a maintenance schedule, and they are designed to last the life of the engine. The owner does not pay for the timing belt service. The service department does not see the visit. Toyota absorbed the higher manufacturing cost of the chain at the factory. The owner kept the $400 to $900. Repeat that decision across every engineering choice in every vehicle, and you eventually arrive at the $441 annual repair figure. Each one of those decisions was made before the car left the factory floor,